Okay, it's 9 o'clock. We'll call the meeting in order. Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda as presented?
Mr. Chairman, I have no additions or corrections at this time.
Mr. Chair, here no additions or corrections. I'll move the agenda as presented.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion second, approve the agenda. Any further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have the approval of the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of 11/12/19, approval of auditor warrants of 11/15/11/22, and approval of hospital warrants, amount of $631,000, $631,212.26.
Chair, I'd move for approval.
Second.
Motion second, approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have Kyle Creer. We're going to talk about the One Watershed, One Plan.
Sure.
Des Moines
Good
River.
morning.
Good morning.
A couple different ones. First one on the agenda is the Des Moines, and we've talked about the Des Moines River previously, and I've drafted a letter, you should have been in your packets, basically acknowledging that we are wanting to be active in the watershed planning process, but not sitting at the table as an actual voting member. So this was a suggested letter that we submit to the Des Moines River Watershed Group that's submitting the application for the One Watershed, One Plan. Any questions? We have about 5,200 acres in the watershed.
Luke?
I just have a question on the second paragraph, the second half of that sentence. I don't know if it really is applicable because this board's already determined apparently it's not necessary or desired.
As far as the notification, you mean? Would like to be notified when the advisory committee meets? Is that what you mean?
Right.
So you're wanting that removed?
Possibly.
Because here's it's worded, to be notified when the advisory committee meets in order for the county to be involved. Well, I see what you're saying, if they meet. Shouldn't it say more if there's a question that's germane to Pipestone County that we'd like to be involved at that point? Isn't that what our intent was?
I don't know, I got the impression our intent was to not be involved, other than obviously if there were any potential projects available that you'd want to allow the people to be involved that way.
Or that would directly affect our 8 miles, 7.
And I did kind of, the reason I kind of ended it, to be notified, you know, in order to participate if necessary. So it's not meaning that we're going to participate at every meeting. It's only on those that are, where it's necessary.
But literally, this says every time they have a meeting that we need to be notified. Isn't that what it says?
Yes.
And we don't need to be notified every time they have a meeting. We just need to be notified if there's something that pertains to our 8.7 miles.
But if they notify you, you can determine whether or not it's necessary that you go.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, but as the governing body, they're going to interpret this as they want us to send them a message every time we have a meeting. Or is that what you want? Is that what you intended?
It's your letter, so if you don't want to be noticed.
How many times do they meet?
I don't know.
Quite frequently during the planning process, but after the advisory probably is going to be quarterly, I would assume. That's what the Yellow Medicine is doing, I believe. So initially, through the plan process, it's quite often.
I mean, the advisory committee doesn't really have any say over what, I mean, they can give their recommendation, but it's the policy committee that actually decides what's going to happen.
Correct.
Could I suggest that maybe possible wording would be that that we'd be informed anytime that there was an issue that would be germane to our 8.7 miles.
So basically just say, but informed,
Informed or included any discussions that would involve the 8.7 miles of our watershed. Just a suggestion, what do you guys think? Does that make sense?
Either wording's fine with me, so.
That's fine.
yeah, I'm fine with anything. It does, I mean, it's just a simple letter, so.
Is that what you'd like to see then, Dan?
I think that would address our intent, wouldn't it?
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, if you just pencil those changes in, we can still approve this, can't we?
Yes.
Yeah, just with those pencil changes, yeah.
I move to approve what Dan said.
Okay,
How's that?
I'll put something together and let Chris review it and just confirm that
Yeah.
it meets his expectations.
Sounds good.
That
Yeah,
works for me.
I'll second that, Bruce.
Okay, motion second to approve the One Watershed, One Plan participation letter. Any further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And next we have the Missouri River One Watershed, One Plan. We have two actions. The first would be to actually adopt the comprehensive water management plan. And once the county adopts that, the recommendation from the policy committee is to have each entity now adopt a joint powers agreement that you should have also all received to form a functioning unit of government that will oversee and manage the operations and grant dollars that will be received for the implementation practices within the watershed. Right now, it's anticipated that the watershed group will be receiving, once an entity is formed and we submit a work plan, we're slated to receive approximately $1.3 million from the Board of Water and Soil Resources for implementation activities over the next 2 years for the Missouri River watershed. The joint powers is being proposed and will be signed by each county board and soil and water board from the counties within the watershed. I don't know, do you have anything more that you'd like to add?
I think that pretty much sums it up.
All our creeks and rivers are in the Missouri River watershed, are they not? The Rock River and.
Yeah.
without
So all of
seeing the map,
Pipestone
but-
Creek, 90% of the county is in the Missouri, so it's Pipestone Creek, Flandreau Creek, Rock River. The only things that we don't have that are part of the Missouri is the small portion of the Redwood River that flows to the northeast up by Ruthven, and then the 5,000 acres of the Des Moines, just below that flows east.
Mr. Chair. Does our county plan currently conform to this plan?
When you mean conform,
Well, it says on the resolution, on the third paragraph, that, you know, the county shall amend our existing water and land resources plans to conform with this comprehensive watershed management plan. Does our current plan already do that?
our current plan covers the entire county. So our future plan will, my understanding from Bowser is that there will always be a water plan. Right now, by adopting this plan, that will dominate the plan for the Missouri, or it'll take the place of the Missouri. But we will still have our current water plan in place for the Redwood and Des Moines until those two watersheds are adopted. And we've adopted the plans on those two. So it will, yes, I would assume so, but, so right now, anything that's relevant to the Missouri River within our current plan will be overwritten with this plan.
Okay. So then moving on to the next paragraph, if local units of government are required to submit their existing water plans within 90 days for review by the county, and, you know, going on, you got 180 days to review it, whatever. Is that something that your office is gonna have to do then, or?
I think we've already done that through the process.
Well, that's what I was kind of wondering. Yeah, if it's not already done, or,
Right, to my knowledge, it's all, everything has been submitted, it's been put out for public comment, we've received the comments, so we've ultimately went through the entire water planning process, and this is the final step of the approval. Where if we did our own individual county water plan, we need to submit that out to state agencies and others for public comment review.
so you're feeling that this resolution is basically just restating what's already been done?
Correct.
Okay.
Because we're ultimately adopting the plan that's already been submitted for public comment.
Right,
Yes.
okay. There you go.
And these are template resolutions that have been submitted by Bowser to bring to the board, so I didn't tweak the number, I mean, the days or anything like that, it's just
Right.
rubber stamp, basically.
Do you want a separate motion on these, or,
I think it would be good to have a separate motion, one adopting the plan, and then another agreeing to join in the joint powers agreement.
I'd move to approve the plan.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion second to adopt the Missouri River Watershed Plan. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then I'd move to approve the joint powers agreement.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second to approve the Missouri Watershed Partnership Joint Powers Association. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Any other questions for me?
I don't.
No, thanks.
Thanks, Kyle. Next on the list, we have Jeremy Whipple from Pipestone Development Company. He is not here.
Mr. Chairman, if it'd be okay, we could, Nick is here, we could move his items up and he could go back to work.
Okay.
He doesn't, it'd take just a few minutes to do what he's got. Right, Nick? You got big things you gotta do today, right? Make sure all the blades are ready to go,
We have
it's fueled up.
Highway Engineer Nick Bergman.
Okay, first up for me, if you wanted to contract our fuel again like we've done in the past, we need to set a letting date for that. Last year, for the first half of 19, we had a letting on December 26th. Yes. So I don't know what your guys' feelings are, if we were gonna do, if you wanted to do it again, you know, before the first of the year, I'm thinking December 17th would probably be the day to do it.
Yep.
Sounds good to me.
And we'd probably do, it'd be, excuse me, it'd be about the same quantity as before. Sometimes we can squeeze another tanker in here or there, so we might adjust it a little bit. You know, we'll know more like right before we put the bid out, so yeah, I guess, December 17th at 10:30 would probably be the way to go then.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to set the fuel bid date to December 17th.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Yeah, motion second. Is there any further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, just a quick question for Nick.
ahead.
How's the new tank and card system all working out? We haven't really heard anything since we put that new system in.
It holds a tanker, so that's nice. We don't let it go all the way empty.
But no glitches with the software, everything? That's all
They've
working
been
out.
back a couple times. I think we had one sensor go bad on it, or I don't know. From time to time, I guess I see them out there, but it might be just checking over too. So I guess to answer your question, I haven't really heard any
No news is good
complaints.
news.
So
No
yeah,
news is
exactly.
good news.
yeah.
You bet. Thank you, Nick.
The next item I have is to approve final payment for one of our box culvert contracts. Had two projects in it. The project numbers were SAP 59-608-24, and the other one was SAP 59-598-027. This contract is with A&C Excavating out of Marshall. One was on our County Road 8, the other was on our County Road 7. The final payment amount is $12,040.99. things seem to go well. Not a whole lot to add there. It came in a little bit under the original bid amount. It didn't take quite as much bedding and backfill as we had originally anticipated, so. So if you look at those numbers, you'll see it's a little bit shy, but it goes the other way too, so.
Move to approve.
I'll second it.
Motion and second, approve the payments to A&C Excavating. Any further discussion? Dan?
Seeding and so forth, it's all been seeded in, or?
Yep. It's not all up yet, but it was coming up good, and it helps if we get this stuff off the books, so we don't have to deal with audit stuff for another year, so.
Right. Any further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. Then the last request for board action I have is to approve final payment for two more projects. We did these for Etna Township. One was SAP 59-599-099, and the other was SAP 59-599-100. Those were also with A&C Excavating out of Marshall. That final payment amount was $6,845.94. I just see I have a typo on that request for board
Roads
action.
must be different.
Correct. Yep, I must not have got that changed. So they're for Etna Township. They're just east of Ruthven. Sorry about that.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve final payment for the Etna Township box culverts.
Second.
We have motion and second, approve the final payment to Etna Township box culverts. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right. Well, that's all I had. Any questions for me?
How many inches of snow are we gonna get? No.
Do I know what it says?
No.
Okay. It says 9 in parts of the county, so we'll see. Hopefully not, but whatever.
Trucks all ready to go?
What's that?
Are the trucks all ready to go?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, they're putting the last of the wings on today, so
Good time.
yeah, we will be ready to go. So.
Thanks, Nick.
All right. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Steve, would you like to just move on to other business?
I think so. Let's just continue on.
Okay. Don't have Bill till 10, so.
Let's do the 2020 CHIPS plan with RLW law firm, please.
This is basically the same agreement as the previous one?
This is the same plan as the other legal firm we're using too. There it is. Okay. This is Runchi, Luagi, and Wellman. This is for child protection services. We did the other one last month, so it'd be appropriate to do this one. Denise Brandel has vetted this, and it's perfectly acceptable for them. It's the same contract as we had last year. All we're doing is changing the date for 2020 for the next calendar year. Rates are all the same.
Here, I move for approval.
And I will second.
We have a motion and second for approval of the CHIPS legal services contract. Any further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Steve, I see Bill did walk in. Maybe we could bump him up there.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
He's here. If you're ready, Bill.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What I'm bringing today is to not purchase, but lease a new MFP printer, scanner, copier for the treasurer's office. Solicited bids from our local vendors that we had before, and One Source Solutions seems to have the best monthly cost on printing. And this is really low volume. This machine. So the basis for any choice here is based on what our print costs are.
Right.
Right.
It's almost half the other two bids.
There's a mistake on the Marco quote. It should be 53.66, not 59.66. Other than that, everything else is right. Any other questions about it?
I don't, but you're suggesting that we go with One Source Solutions?
Correct.
contract?
Yep. For a lease at $106 a month plus the print costs.
Okay.
And it's straight print costs.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Bill and I talked about this, and routinely in the past, we've been purchasing our copier units. But in talking to Bill about it, the cost for leases have come down, and we're generally not keeping them for 10 years. So, on a 5-year lease, we're controlling a little more of our money this way too, instead of putting it into it, and then it's gone, where we're just making a payment on it, and it's gonna go away after 5 years anyway. So we just have more money, in our pockets for a little bit when we do this, instead of just purchasing outright. So we're not keeping them, 10, 15 years anymore. They aren't made to last that either.
It's not like the printer we have in Bill's office where that gets printed all day long.
Yeah, exactly. So
It's a low volume printer. So.
I think given the costs and the way they're making them now, I think we'll probably see more of these lease arrangements versus outright purchasing anymore. So, okay. Makes sense.
Mr. Chair. Bill, then can you explain then the thought process for not going with a lower priced one? The Marco is the higher priced of these three choices, but you obviously have got good reason for that.
Why? Okay. Oh, you mean the outright purchase price? Because over that 5-year or that 60-month period, we'll make up that difference plus pay more in the per print costs. The One Source was about $500, and then Marco and Century, they were in that $1,300 to $1,700.
So on the right side here is the purchase price, what you're
Correct.
saying?
Yep, that's if we were
So
going to
you're
just
looking
outright buy
at
it.
the per copy. So even though the lease is a little bit more, the per copy, so this is still a more economical way going.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to go with Bill's suggestion here of One Source Solutions.
I'd move to approve that.
And I'll second that.
Okay. We have motion second, approve the lease with One Source Solutions. Any further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. See, Jeremy's here. If you're ready, we'll take you right now. Jeremy Whipple of Pipestone Development Company, LLC. Good morning.
Good. How are you guys doing today?
I'm good.
Chair, can we wait just a minute? I wanted Tyler to be down here for this.
Tyler
Is he here? Oh, there you are. Sorry, didn't see you come in.
Hid behind the pole.
I couldn't see it. The pole was right there. Forgive me.
It did blend in really well, doesn't it?
So I guess we submitted an offer for the old high school property across the street here. We're working on a project, and we need a lot for it. So for us to continue with our project, I guess we kind of just need to, I guess, get a lot. So that's kind of what we're looking at, so. And I know that, I think, I've talked to the county attorney, and he's told me that it has to go through a bid process, which is fine, but at least we're trying to get the ball rolling, that there is interest in it. It's not a dead lot. Like I said, we're working on a project, and for us, we need to get a lot cost, so that's what we're working towards, so.
And Jeremy, if you would maybe explain when you refer to "we" for people that are listening in and don't understand what the Pipestone Development covers.
So the Pipestone Development Company, we formed this year. Our goal is kind of the betterment of Pipestone through our first couple of projects was we did a daycare for a young lady. She opened that in June of this year. We bought Fiddian's Coffee House. We got that up and running. We got some new business owners in that. We're working on some cart sheds for the country club. We're also doing some stuff in some other communities. And our goal is basically improvement by tax base, finding new business owners for our community, and just betterment of our community, finding some new amenities for our community and the surrounding area. That's kind of our goal. So been contacted by a client that's interested in putting up a new building. We would like to build it and lease it to them, but we need a spot to put it. So that's kind of where we're looking at that property.
I guess, Mr. Chair, the question is whether or not the board's even considering doing anything with it yet at this point. We're still just waiting for the dust to settle from our, and I understand your interest in getting something going. Tyler, is there any legal issues that we would face? I don't know that we're ready to move forward with it anyway, but just maybe Tyler could explain some stuff to us.
I can take the main seat if you want, Tyler.
Yeah, I can speak to this a little bit. Morning, by the way, right?
Morning.
Obviously, Domain would be the one answering a lot of these questions because the tax forfeiture laws are very convoluted and complex. But Jerry was correct that this would not, we cannot just go and pick who you want to sell this to. You'd have to at least have a bidding process. My one question is if you have to go to bid or full on auction. So that's one thing I wanted to clarify with the county attorney. So this isn't something that we could even act on today. Obviously, we're just trying to get, Jerry was just trying to get the ball rolling. But as of right now, the only thing hindering us is the fact that you would have to open up to public bids moving forward, from my understanding. So you have to offer it to the public as a whole before you decide who you want to sell it to.
So you were thinking we'd have to offer the whole property up for bidding?
No, we can actually do it.
Divided into
Correct.
sections and say
Yes.
section A, B, C, or
Correct.
whatever.
By state law, the board has power to do anything with the property that they feel would benefit the county as a whole. So if you think selling it all in one shot would be better, if you want to subdivide it into lots, if you want to plat it and put different properties with different widths on there, and then sell them individually or sell groups of them, you have every right to do that.
Mr. Chair, if I may, but if we were to subdivide it out ourselves and have it plotted into different lots, obviously there'd be an upfront cost to the county for doing
Correct,
that.
yes. If you do any of that work, we would have to pay for that. And then technically, that money would be, how we would get reimbursed would be the tax forfeiture fund would technically pay for it by law, but obviously that fund never has enough money, so it would essentially just come out of general fund balance. Yep.
And if I understand correctly, the way the property sits right now, there's actually two separate parcels there already. So we could sell off one parcel or the other without having to have a plot because it's already divided into those two
Yes,
parcels.
and one of the parcels of land is actually not even platted, and myself and Joyce, the county assessor, have discussed possibly at least platting that to get it out of this section township range legal description, which it is currently now, which is why that's why it has a different parcel number. So we were thinking about maybe at least doing that. I know it's an upfront cost to the county, but it would clean up our property records quite a bit.
And then this where there had at one time been a road.
Correct, yeah, and that's been vacated.
It has been vacated, so then, and that was a 40-foot easement?
I believe it was 40 foot. I don't know off the top of my head, but I know, so essentially that line that you see down the middle, 40 feet, or if it's 40 feet, 20 go to the north and 20
So it
go to the
was
south.
split between the two parcels, the joint
Yep.
parcels?
Yep.
But in essence, what you're telling us is this is not unlike any other tax forfeit property that you sell. Anytime you sell a property,
No.
then we have to go through and set a minimum price for
Yep.
it before you go out to public
Correct,
auction.
yeah, so that's the clarification that I want from the county attorney, to ensure that we go about this the proper way.
Yep.
Because obviously, like I said previously, you'd set the basic sale price and then move forward. But I want to see, since we have spent several $100,000, almost up to $1 million of county taxpayer funds, I want to make sure that we can get reimbursed at least some of our costs, and do this the best way for the county as a whole. So any possible tools that we can use, I want to at least approach, so.
When we set the basic asking price for any property you sell, that's always been kind of a thumbnail, what can we get for it, and so forth. I feel this is a little bit different because of the size of it.
Completely.
And I wonder if it wouldn't be appropriate for us to get maybe at least two independent outside appraisals of this property so we know what we're doing. If that's not going to cost us a fortune to get those appraisals, instead of us just kind of shooting from the cuff and saying, well, we think it might be worth this much. We need to get an appraisal on this property. Does that make sense to you guys?
I guess I'm just questioning, I think that before we move forward with any of that, I mean, there have been some identified needs for various county facilities that I think need to be at least looked at before we decide if we are even interested in selling this particular piece of property. I mean, some of which may, depending on what happens, might lead to some other property in town being available if this property is used by the county. And actually, the other property would be probably more attractive for, I don't know what type of thing you're doing, but it may be more attractive depending on what you're doing.
I know the property you're talking about, and they're both very attractive, but one leads to the other.
Yeah.
I think we need some time to shake the dust out of this.
Well, do we approach this as the Building and Grounds Committee to put forth recommendations, or how do we move forward?
That'd be a good starting point.
You should probably have Tyler go ahead with this plotting and get that squared away too in the meantime. That
I mean, if you want me to, I can look into it with Joyce and myself.
part of the property that affects here.
I believe it's the north half, the northern parcel there, I believe is the part
Where
that's still
Jeremy's
sectioned.
Talking about,
Yep.
you're talking about the north part of
Yep.
Is that the alley portion or?
No, the actual north, I should have
Oh,
looked this
this
up. The
bigger
actual
square on
north, the
top.
bigger square.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure which one it is, because I haven't looked at that, but one of them is still, like I said, still section township range, and that's a mess when you get to town property for legal descriptions, because you're essentially starting at the southwest quarter, less this, and it's very difficult to actually figure out where you're even at. So that's why we would like to get an auditor plat at least. So we'll have to look into that. I know we already have a couple of those in the county, but Joyce and myself have never been part of that process, so we just want to kind of look into to see exactly what we need to do to get that set up. So.
good to move forward with that.
That's what-
Regardless of what happens to
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
because-
Yeah, because then we just have to figure out what kind of dimensions you want to do for the lots, so on and so forth.
Because that pretty much has to be cleaned up regardless of what happens.
It would be nice. It would definitely, you don't necessarily have to, but for everybody involved, I think it would be a benefit to have it cleaned up.
And that's something we can do internally here. There's no,
Yep, yep. So I can get with Joyce and move forward if that's what the
Yeah.
board wishes.
no. Well, I want to express to Jeremy, I do appreciate your willingness to step forward on this, get the ball rolling, and I guess, I hope you understand the process that we have to go
Yeah, I
through.
knew,
to
I
sell
knew it
public
was
property.
going to happen, 'cause
Yep.
yeah, I talked to the main and he said,
Right.
well, like I said, our goal is just to get the ball rolling if there is interest in that property.
Yep, get it developed, and
And,
then,
you know, by having a private company do it, it goes on the tax base, which benefits our city and school district, so there's a benefit to private business doing it rather than government business, so, or government doing it, so that's what our goal is.
and we realize there's a handful of different opportunities for development, and then this is the first step, is getting this.
Yeah, this could lead to other things getting developed in our community, which could hopefully lead to the tax base, which is good for everybody.
Absolutely.
All right. You guys have any
Appreciate your
other
interest.
Thank you, Jeremy.
questions? Hey, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Guys, have a good day.
Thanks, Tyler. That shored up our regular business. I guess we can continue on with other business unless you guys would like to take a short recess.
Recess, I
Now,
guess.
let's take a short recess.
Recess, okay. Time is 9:33. Reconvene at 9:45. Okay. Okay, we'll reconvene the meeting. Next up, we have the approve coroner call-out reimbursement.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I put that on the agenda. I had a meeting with Dr. Christensen last month, and he had come in and requested that with all the new doctors they have now, this would be a good time to take a look at reimbursing himself and the associate coroners, as he calls them, for call-outs. And I was kind of taken as a, when we don't get anything, it's like, nope, you get nothing. So I did some calling around the area, and they have some information on here. Checked with Rock County, they get $250 per call out. Those are Sanford docks. Nobles gets $250 per hour. Cottonwood is $450 straight fee for a call out. Redwood has no fee, as a coroner never asked for it, so they're not paying anything. So Dr. Christensen and I talked about it and came up with a $250 per call out based on approximately 3 call outs per month, or 36 a year. And that would be about $9,000 we'd have to add to the budget to cover those expenses. Right now, the only thing we've got in the budget is for actual autopsies. We have $5,000 put in each year for that. And we talked about it. He said, well, Sometimes there'll be more, sometimes there'll be less. It just depends on what the needs are. Some are done by telephone, which in most cases doesn't require someone to go out to a scene. But all of these are initiated by law enforcement, because every deceased body that law enforcement is involved in is always a crime until it's proven that it's not. And that's the way they've got to look at it. And understand too that our doctors here are coroners. They're not death investigators. They aren't medical examiners. When you get into that part of it, those are when they're be sending the deceased off to St. Paul for autopsies. And then if there's a crime involved, then the BCA is involved in that as well too. So you've got local sheriff, coroner, BCA. You could have St. Paul, a coroner's office involved too, medical examiner. But most of the cases don't require that, obviously. But they just requested that it's time to take a look at. So they've got Dr. Savio, Dr. Anderson, Dr. Stewart are all interested in being involved in this too, because they need that. And all of the docs up there are appointed associate coroners by Dr. Christensen. So Dr. Christensen is still elected coroner and will be until the end of 2022. So the recommendation would be to approve $9,000 to be placed into the coroner's budget for 2020, effective 12/1 of this year. And we'll move the money from the non-departmental budget to cover it. So it's no net cost for the levy. So we'll just move some money to cover that cost. So I'd like to start this December 1st. And this will be done on a voucher system. So when they go out, they will have a voucher. They'll turn it into the auditor's office. Each associate or coroner would then receive a 1099 every year for their services that they went out on. So it's covered by taxes. So I've talked to Tyler about it. He's fine with it too. Talked with Sandy in the auditor's office. There's no problem there either. So recommend we move forward on this.
Sherry, I got a question for Steve. If we do move forward with the discussion as far as making the coroner also an appointed position versus elected position as it is now, I realize this is in the future, we'd have to comply with the same rules that were talked about when we talked about treasurer auditor as far as the process of doing that.
The process for the coroner is different than what we're talking about with the auditor, treasurer, or recorder now. Those are not specifically listed in the statute for an employment agreement is what we're working on now with our auditor, treasurer. The coroner would be 140 days from the time of the election to say we want to have this appointed. Then we could go forward with that. So there's a little difference in the statute.
A little simpler process for coroner.
Yes.
You're saying?
Yeah.
And if
I don't know
indeed
if
in the
it's simpler or
future,
not, but it's a different process.
if we should do that in the future, would this have any impact on it at all? Not really. Because we're just setting some compensation. So whether it's compensations for an elected official or for an appointed position, it makes no difference.
Right, and that's exactly what I found out from the other counties around us, that Redwood County has a appointed coroner and doesn't request any fees. It's different. I've got a whole list of every coroner in the state, and all of them do something different. So some are appointed, some are elected. It just depends on which way you go. But at some point, Dr. Christensen, I presume, will retire, and that may be a good time to look at this for appointment as well.
Right.
I'd leave it up to him to tell us what he's going to do in the future. Whether he's going to run again or not. If he chooses not to run again, that does open the door for us to start an appointment process for that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd move for approval.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the coroner services reimbursement. Any further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next up, we have approved the second amended and restated joint JPA with Prime West.
Mr. Chair, that's the Prime West Joint Powers Agreement for all of the participating counties now, and also for the counties that will be joining. They had some changes to the agreement once again, so we prematurely approved it last time. So recommendation would be approve the newly presented Joint Powers Agreement for Prime West. Authorize the chair and myself to sign.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion second to approve the second amended and restated JPA with Prime West. Any further discussion?
I guess the only real changes on this, and this is where it's been lined out, we talked about it last time, as far as the voting rights and so forth and things like that.
All right, any further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have approval of a UCAP agreement from 2020 to 2024.
Mr. Chairman, I'm bringing this forward as well. In the past, we've done an annual UCAP agreement. Our UCAP Transit Advisory Committee meetings, one of the recommendations was instead of an annual, let's just go with a 5-year agreement on this. And if there's any changes in it, we would take those up. The only change we have that you should be aware of is also in the budget on page 3 where it says under item B, subsection 2, financial compensation of up to 20% of the capital replacement costs for vehicles to meet the MnDOT replacement criteria and other vehicle purchases as approved by all parties for community transit service in the Pipestone County service area. For 2020, one replacement vehicle in the estimated amount of $88,000 is scheduled for Pipestone County service area. Local share is requesting the amount of $8,800, so that's a one-time, so that's a specific clause in here for a 2020 purchase of a bus, and the $8,800 was placed into the budget for 2020 as well. Everything else is the same. And
Steve?
Go ahead.
Did Kathleen have any response to these different reports we've had about the various counties having different amounts for their contribution for this vehicle?
No. No, I don't have anything new on that to report on.
And then-
I do know they're having trouble getting buses, though, because there's a clause in the government contract that says a certain percentage of the bus has to be manufactured in America, and more parts of the buses are being outsourced to other countries between Ford and General Motors, and there are virtually right now no chassis that meet that federal requirement of where it's manufactured right now. So as far as getting a chassis, they're having a big problem with that. Not just UCAP, it's everybody that's under that same agreement. So when they'll get the bus, I don't know, but
A lot of the stuff comes from Canada or Mexico, and they don't, she kind of explained that to us at the last meeting we were at, and the government, federal government doesn't allow you to buy vehicles that don't have more content from the U.S., and that's fine, but there isn't much available in that.
Nobody manufactures it.
They're working on that, but.
Okay, I guess at this time I'll entertain a motion to approve the UCAP agreement from 2020 to 2024.
I'd move to approve that, Mr. Chair.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion second. Is there any further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, for upcoming. Upcoming meetings, there's the AMC Annual Conference up in St. Cloud from December 9th to December 11th. December 2nd, we have Truth and Taxation, 7 p.m. December 3rd, we're having a rescheduled meeting, Commissioners meeting at 9 a.m. December 10th, no meeting due to the AMC Conference. December 17th is a rescheduled meeting because we're not having a meeting December 24th. Is there any other business to come before the board?
Chairman, we have personnel issues.
Do we have personnel? Did I skip over that?
That's okay.
Okay.
Kathy was feeling left out for a moment.
Well, we can't have that. Good morning.
What I'm gonna go over today is the auditor treasurer job description, and Steve has, did you pass that already?
Not yet.
It's pretty much the same as
One
what
you
was-
got in your packet, discard that one. This is a latest version.
So since it was approved last week to move forward, or last board meeting to move forward with the appointment process, we had to develop a job description for the auditor treasurer's office. or for the auditor treasurer position, excuse me. And we did look at a couple area job descriptions to kind of base this off of Rock County and Lyon County, and just went through it with Tyler, and Steve also looked through it as well. And there were a couple just small changes. The vital statistics piece under knowledge, skills, and ability, that needs to get removed. So you can see that's crossed out there. He does not have access because due to he has access to the driver's license, he cannot have access to the vital statistics. So I did confirm that with Tyler as well. So you had a chance to kind of read through it in the packet, and if you have any questions, let me know. But otherwise, I'd be seeking approval for this job description today, and then it would get sent into our compensation consultant for evaluation to place on the pay plan.
Mr. Chair, are there times when the auditor treasurer needs to be able to drive to another site? Not all his work isn't just done right here.
Oh, he goes out and looks at
During election time, Mr.
properties
Chair.
and elections.
He has to go to the polling places and, okay.
He goes out and looks at properties that are
Tax forfeited.
forfeited and so forth too. So, yeah, there's.
There are times when he has to drive, okay.
Is there a motion for approval?
I'd move to approve it.
Second.
Motion, second to approve the proposed auditor treasurer job description. Any further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The Democrats say we have to pass it to see what's in it.
Anything else, Kathy? No?
No, that was it.
All right, thank you. Is there any other business to come before the board? Luke?
Steve, were you gonna check to see if any of those rooms opened up for the AMC conference?
I have not called him yet. I'll give him a call.
Okay.
Make a note here.
Yeah, being in the other one is really unhandy.
It's very inconvenient.
And do you have us any reservations for rooms at all up there?
Yes, I have reservations at the Country Inn and Suites, which is about a half a mile
Yep.
from it's across the river. Closest I could get. And I did do that very quickly after it opened. I mean, I didn't waste time, and
Right.
it's just ridiculous. But I'll do what I can, but at least we got a place. So not sleeping in cars.
Yeah.
Is everybody signed up to go?
Yeah.
I made rooms for reservations for all commissioners and myself, and also the registration was turned in for everyone, unless anyone's not going. Love to have you all there.
Sounds good.
About our staff, highway going up as well too, do you know, or?
No.
Okay. All right, is there any other business to come before the board?
Cheryl move. I'll second.
All right, motion second to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.